Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Well, welcome to the Saffron Kid. I mean, it's the smallest ingredient of the whole program today, and yet, you know, here I am. Well, anyway, a simple little way of cooking rice, a bit more than just simple, a fantastic way. I'll wrap around a tiny little recipe for you, and then actually build it up into an incredible dish for Christmas, something that I think would work so well, full of color and texture and everything else. You know, it's all very much the kind of thing that I've been trying to talk about. If you take a plate and you were to take something that you know has actually got fat in it, and you were to literally halve that item with fat, and then were to take vegetables, grains, any form of starch that you like, and throw color into it, and then increase the plate size, what used to be, in this little dotted line around there, what used to be the whole amount of something that had fat in it, like meat in some way. But instead of that, you've thrown in stuff that you like to eat and filled the plate up. When you do that, it's amazing how in that one decision to do that one thing, you can get on with a kind of mini-max way of cooking. And it just works so well. And just to show you just how that works, both of the dishes today do that really famously. All right? Come and have a look and see this fabulous idea with risotto. Now, the risotto, you know, just fasten your seatbelts, it's okay. I mean, I'll give you everything you need to know. Must start with a stock. It's really so important because the rice has got to absorb the most incredible flavor because we're not going to put a whole bunch of fat into it. All right, a nice large onion, therefore, and celery tops, you know, the stuff you normally trim and throw out, and 4 carrots and a good large bay leaf. That's a magnificent one, isn't it? And then here, 4 little cloves nestling in there. Nestling? They normally nestle, but they nuzzle. Nestling in there are little cloves here, and then also about a dozen black peppercorns. And that would all go, just a little oil in the bottom of the pan, and fry up the onion and just release the oils from it. And then you've got the stock. Now, into the stock then, I would simply place these, which are really the shin. You know, I can't get down that far, but it's this part of the animal, and it's cut across. When you speak to the meat market about it, say, get me a shin of veal, and just carve it across for me, just, you know, about 1 inch or 1.5 inch slices, so that you've got a piece of bone like this one. Now, normally, this is the marrow in here, and they serve little tiny teaspoons so that when you cook this in the traditional l'ossobuco, which is from, you know, the northern part of Milan, of Italy, and you spoon the fat up out of the bone as well. So that's the reason for the big calorie value. But in this case, we've simply got these. You don't do anything with them at all, except just to drop them down into the stock and then simmer the whole thing for 2 hours, all right? End of 2 hours, an extraordinary thing takes place because the veal in that long, slow, moist cooking comes down, becomes extremely tender, and also gives up, of course, the meat flavor into the rest of the stock. So you've got wonderful oh, where's the bone? It's gone. Oh, well, it was just a clean bone anyway. I'll show you how you get that off in a sec. Then just simply get the, love those handles, just pour the stock then. I had altogether 8 cups of liquid and I want to get down to 4 cups of liquid. So you can tell by the simmering process that you get some of the liquid going off, which concentrates it, gives more flavor. So then just shake out this surplus liquid there, leave nothing. I mean, this is so aromatic and delicious. That's the stock, and just pull that across there. Okay, fine. Now, what I normally do, just in case there should be any surplus fat, and there really isn't in the veal shank, but if there is, just pour it into a fat strainer, and you will find that if there's any surplus fat there at all, it will come up to the surface. Now, it's always, when you make a risotto, you always keep the stock hot. It must be hot for the continuing addition. It's done in 4 different levels. All right, let's put just a half teaspoonful of oil in the bottom here. Yeah, a genuine half teaspoonful. And if you haven't seen this before, here we go again. When you're cutting an onion for any kind of dish, the thing to think of is how large should it be. And in this case, you cut it so that it looks about the same size as rice grains. Right? So that's a simple way of doing that. And I always save the little end for putting into stocks and things of that nature. And then up with it and down. Now, do you hear the sizzle? The moment that onion, in order to really go properly, the onion has to, if you put it down on its own, it would stew in its own juices. But with oil there and a hot pan, now it's bursting the oil sacs in the onion out, and you're getting this wonderful aroma. Can't do it any other way. All right, good. I need all of it. Fine. Now here's the rice. Now this rice is called arborio rice, and it comes from the Po River Valley, just north of Milan, north and across a bit, northeast. Here it is. It's a lovely fat grain of rice. This is long grain rice to give you some idea about how large it is, and this is long grain brown rice, to just show you the different kinds of rice. I need a cup of it, and just ask for it by name, and then in the supermarket, they're very cooperative supermarkets nowadays, really understanding that we want to cook. All right, instead of just buying things in 300-calorie frozen packages. And so when you've got that rice, just throw it in and just mix it up with the onions. It just does fine. All right. Now, into that, which is hot, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cups of a dealkalized dry white wine. All right? And then this... This is the world's most expensive spice. This is saffron, and thankfully, you don't actually use much of it. It takes 250,000 of the little stigma inside a crocus. They actually pluck the little strands out of the center of the crocus and put that into it. I need 1/16 of a teaspoonful. I mean, literally tiny amount, but it is fragrant and it produces the color of my shirt. Just simple. And then roll it up, please, and keep it in a sealed bottle and in the fridge or in a safe, wherever you feel that you want to keep it. All right, beautiful, great color. And I like the powder rather than the strands because it has more of a density of flavor, providing you get it from someone who you can trust. That isn't adulterated with turmeric or something. Okay, so that's on the heat there. So that's the first lot. Now, what happens is you just keep on going, and every now and again, when it gets stiff enough, you stir it up, and it gets stiff enough, and you add then another cup of the stock, and then you keep stirring it, and it takes just 20 to 25 minutes. Keep stirring it, and the arborio rice, the starch from that, comes off, and causes this incredibly luxurious, look at that. It has this smooth mouth round fullness which is so gorgeous, and it's just picking up the stock. So this one is what it looks like when you've got that last cup to add. So I'm just going to add one last cup to there, put it in, and stir it. Okay, now you see the stirring over a medium heat, keep stirring all the time. And this is one of those things where you're just going to have to do it. Just keep stirring like that. It's wonderful. I can taste it already. So then just simply fork the meat apart. It is so tender, so completely tender. Any pieces of odd meat, tired vegetables, make sure they're to one side. And there it goes. And if there's any strong skin on the outside, just nip that in about as well. There we go. And look, you can just pull it apart from the bone. It is just as tender as can be. Then just take that and just shoot that down into meat. Now, this isn't osso buco. I'm not even pretending it's osso buco, but it has the essential basic character of osso buco. And that's what I wanted to get at. Cheese. Now, cheese would be, you know, the Parmigiano Reggiano, the Parmesan cheese, which is gorgeous, or an American Monterey Dry Jack. This is a very intriguing cheese. You grate it up, and there's a real temptation to fudge it here. What I do, I grate on this grater, which has got, it shows you how much actual cheese there is in there. And then all you have to do is just slip that back, and it's in. And it is so easy to get a big block of cheese and keep on grating away and saying to yourself, Mamma mia, and keep on stirring. Please, please, believe me, you know, you can go more than you want to, and it really makes a lot of difference. There's just enough cheese in there to really feel it. Then, a cup of peas. Now, one of the classics in this part of the world, up north of Milan, is risi bisi, which is rice and peas, one of the great dishes of the world. So I've just borrowed a little bit from that as well. This is where you get different ideas. And freshly ground pepper. There's a full quarter teaspoonful of freshly ground pepper in there. You've got to be able to feel the bite of it. And a little bit of salt too. And actually, although this goes above what I normally say, it's got to go up to a quarter teaspoonful. We found that if you don't go the full quarter teaspoonful of salt, then it's kind of dull and you regret it. Don't do that. And as you'll see from the numbers, it doesn't make that much difference. All right, on the side, this is it. It's served. It's done. So get a nice spoonful of it and dump it on the plate. Now, it's going to be solid. Don't look at it as being anything else but solid, a solid heap of food. And when you've eaten this on one of those cold nights and the rain's coming down the wind, you are going to know that you had a real meal. All right? So here it is. Just turn down the old heat again. And on the side, I've got, well, I'll show it to you over the other side as we compare the numbers. There we go. Doesn't that look nice? And on the side, you've got something called cremolata, which is really little wisps of fresh sage and a little scattering of the outside of the zest of the lemon, which just makes it, you know, it just gives you that little extra bite. So what I was trying to do is halve the amount of meat. I only got 8 ounces of meat, 2 ounces per portion. That's really halved. And made up with all the rest, you see. Look at the numbers. It's just amazing, the actual numbers that we've got here. First of all, the original one, that's a l'osso buco with the Milanese rice and the sauce and everything else, 2,478 is down to 419 with the Minimax one. 8 grams of fat in place of 120 grams. That's 120 grams of fat out. I know it's a different dish, but it's borrowed from it. Only 4 grams of saturated fat, and therefore 18% of calories from fat from this dish, which is sensational. Then 70 milligrams of cholesterol instead of 1,100, and 460 milligrams of sodium, so that isn't really too bad. And then 3 in terms of fiber. And just a magnificent thing. You'll only need a fork for this. Look at that plump piece of meat that I have there too. I want to get the arborio rice onto the top there as well so I can taste that. Oh, I love it. And make sure that the lemon and the sage is there on the top. It just is a bright point. It just sparks it up at the last moment. Okay, that really is good. Think of the basic concept of the risotto and then springboard into your favorite dish that you'd like to create. You know, that's the whole idea. Okay, so I'm going to create one. I created this one with Robert Prince, who's my senior food associate. Great idea, brilliant idea of his in the beginning. And I hope you enjoy it. It's just great for Christmas. Oh, perfect. All right, great color and all that. Come on. I'd love to have some things for Christmas time because of the fact that, you know, over Christmas, some people have actually done some research. By the way, this is a butternut squash, and I'm just cutting the neck of the butternut squash into about 1-inch slices. Have done some research which suggests that, in fact, we put on about 7 pounds between Thanksgiving and the whole of Christmas. How about that? And that's about 24,000 calories over Christmas time. And that means we got 24,000 calories to lose. Of course, unfortunately, we don't apparently lose all of those just immediately. We only lose about 5 pounds. So you gain, you know, step by step every year. So how about this for Christmas? These are the discs. Unfortunately, not all discs are created equal. And so it'll look like that. And you put that on a baking sheet and cook that at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, and it's about 180 degrees centigrade, and they will come out and they will look just like that. You know, they'll just be a little browned on the top and all ready to use. And I'll show you how we those in a little while. Okay, now with the rest of this, you just simply take a knife down through there, scoop out the seeds, and then cut this up into 1/4-inch pieces, so it looks like that. Now, I admit to you, and you probably if you've any experience from this, you're going to say, it's going to take a little time. Yeah, about 7 minutes. So if that's 7 minutes over Christmas, get the family in the kitchen. Everybody loves it. All right, put just 1 teaspoonful of oil down in the bottom, and you remember, just like the technique where we did before, just take half an onion and very finely chopped so that it, you know, about the same shape, a little bit larger, of course, than the rice, and but that will work well. And then, because, you know, we didn't add garlic to the other dish, but garlic is needed here because there's absolutely no meat here at all. This is a vegetarian thing. And it's not a bad idea every now and again to throw a vegetarian dish at yourself, really. It doesn't mean to say that you're going strange, not that vegetarianism is strange, but what it means is that you're moving towards something to recognize you don't always have to have a piece of meat between your teeth in order to be able to make a beautiful meal and have everybody happy. All right, so that's stirred in and that's going nicely. Now, there's some spices that are added here and to the rest of the board. These are the spices that I have. They are allspice. And there's 1/4 of a teaspoonful of allspice, a 1/2 teaspoonful of cumin, this is cumin seed, and a 1/4 teaspoonful of cayenne. That's what they look like in the whole pieces, and you can whiz those up, you know, in one of these things if you really want to. It's like a coffee mill, but you can put spices in it, make great coffee later on. And then you can, or you can get those various things already powdered if you really want to get to it. So there is the mix of the spices that are needed for this. And those are just simply stirred together. And they're used twice. In the first time, half of those spices are added to the, you know, to the early frying of the garlic and the onions together. And now, especially over Christmas, the smell that comes out is just phenomenal. So that's done. Now all you need to do is just to take these, which is the rest of that squash. By the way, it's about a 2.5 pound squash, so that you should be able to get about 1 pound of hard squash into this dish now. Then you take stock, and this is a vegetable stock. I've done it before. It's in the book if you don't have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 8 ounces of stock goes into the top. Now, the spices and everything else brew together for just 5 minutes. So don't overdo it now. This one's had 5 minutes, so let's have a look and see what this one looks like. When you pick it up on the end of a spoon, you put a knife through it, it resists, and it has a definite resistance. It's definitely undercooked. But it will be perfect then if you just gave it 5 minutes for the rest of the dish, because it takes that 25 minutes for the rice to cook. Okay, so take the same cup of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this, not a dry white, I've used this time a sweeter white wine with a Gewürztraminer grape in it, just to make it nice and sweet. All right, that's on the go. Just take the 1 cup of the arborio rice and drop that in, stir it up together, and then do that, just cook it until it goes really solid. And then, of course, add the next little bit of the vegetable stock to it. Just keep everything hot. Don't put cold stock in it, always hot. So that's the way it will look when it's got to that stage. Add the last 8 ounces of stock to that. Stir it all up. It must have that fantastic richness to it, which comes strictly out of the starch on the outside of the rice. It's amazing. Okay, now, I'm going to just sock into there, no meat, of course, but here, look at that, Christmas. A sweet red pepper, diced up. I know they're a bit more expensive at this time of year, but there we go. And just half one of those. And then 2 tablespoons full of the stalks of parsley, which give that little... Now look at the color in there. Half a cup of the grated cheese, again from that thing where you can't fudge, and save back a little cheese later. I've saved a little bit of the garnish here. I've got the parsley and the whole thing all together in order to be able to have that as a garnish over the top. So just a little bit left behind to scatter on the surface. And, of course, the pepper. Now, you've got some. Watch the pepper, especially for the kids, because the cayenne pepper, which is called Creole torpedo, is definitely in that dish, but I also want to add that black pepper, which is so good with this kind of food. All right, rest of the spice goes on the top like pop, perfume for the plate. I don't know if you saw that program, but that's what it's all about. To add just a little uprising, you know, at the last moment. All done and ready to serve. Now, this is where you get these little discs of the squash. Set it there, strip the skin off the outside. Did that before, save some time. And then just ladle it on. Just let some of that squash disc, you might get larger squash than I've got. You know, usually you can get larger ones than that. So it has a nice disc on the outside. Doesn't that look great? And then take a little of the little scattering of the cheese and the pepper and the parsley on the top of the... sorry. Looks so great. Okay, come along. I'll show you just actually how this compares with the nutrition on the other one. Now, because this dish, the classic one that I'm going to compare this with, notice how this one just pokes out there. It's rather like the sun, you know, like weather forecasters that show it's going to be partly sunny. So it looks nice and it's attractive on the plate. Here's another dish which is almost exactly the same as this. This is with the risotto with 2 cheeses. And we put similar garnishes into it. You see how dense the cheese looks to little wispy on the cheese there. Let's have a look at the numbers and see how it compares. As always, the classic is the red one, and we'll go green. So we got 423 calories there instead of 700, which is a good start, you know, for the Christmas. 26 grams of fat is rather a lot, so that comes down to only 7, which is much better, 3 of which are saturated fat, as against 10. Now, that means that instead of a 34% calories from fat thing, I've now got 16% of the calories total that I've got from fat, which is just so much better. Cholesterol wasn't bad at 41, but it's much better at 8. Any part of cholesterol is better. And then sodium is 385, all the way whistling down from 1,629. That's a lot. That comes from some of the dry, harder cheeses, which are very salty. And then dietary fiber is 3, and we whiz that up to 10, which is just, that's about as responsible to the old bowels as you can get, which I know at Christmas time one doesn't really think about, but there we are. So just the fork just goes straight through that wonderful piece of squash, and there it goes. Oh, this is so good. This is really neat. Oh, please, understand. This, to my taste, is one of the greatest rice dishes ever created. How about that? Do try it on your friends and your family. God bless you, and have a very Merry Christmas. Bye.